Hey there, how's it going? What is up, everybody? Irish Orangutan is back to pass along the knowledge to make the most of your Madden team. I just wanted to put this at the beginning of the video. Something that I must have just missed is they absolutely do have training re-rolls for this at 78 plus and 90 overall. This was something that I did discuss at the end of the video previously, but for some reason it didn't record. So when I'm redoing this, I do want to put it at the beginning just to make sure you all know, and I do apologize, don't want to pass along any bad information. We are here and ready to talk about most feared. The first players we're going to be looking at are 78 to 79s overall. These players are not going to be tremendous, but players that will fit on your theme teams and just kind of be solid backups, and that is about it. Jermaine Pratt here, 86 speed, 81 overall, 77 hit power, not tremendous, really not going to make very many fields, but again, be a tremendous backup slash special teams. James here, 81 overall, 83 speed, not necessarily the run blocker that you will want. Again, these are some of the lower overall cards. We will be getting up to the 90s and then up to 92s as well for some of the better players. Right here, we see Kahari Willis, 85 speed, not necessarily someone you would want. Taylor Heineke finally getting a solid card here. Good on the run and throw power kind of for an 81 overall, but really terrible accuracy stats, so not really someone you can play with, to be honest, sadly. Tim Patrick should have got a card already, and this card doesn't really do him justice the way that he does play for Denver, but at least he does get a little bit of love here. Mike Hughes, again, not stats you're going to want to put on your field at 87 speed and with that low of coverage. Jordan Hicks, the odd man out, or supposedly with Xavier and Isaiah there, getting a solid yet backup type card there for the Cardinals. Again, just a few backups here for the 83s. Trey Wayne's 89 speed usually gets a little bit more love than that. Sadly, his coverage stats are where they usually are, which are lower. Evan Ingram, 89 speed, the first player that probably could fit on a team if you aren't going to run the ball all that much. I would take him off the field and maybe not even play him at wide receiver, since he is starting to get even lower than some wide receiver run block stats at this point. But 89 speed matches him with the top in the game at that position. Jerry Hughes used to get much better cards speed-wise than this, and block shed-wise, but sadly a little bit lower this time around. Alan Lazard, a solid target for Aaron Rodgers, but just not a perfect card here, to be perfectly honest. Solid speed, but that is about it. Again, solid speed for the overall. Matt Milano, a little bit of the igniter over there for the Bills, getting some love here with some of the lower end cards. Still not a perfect player to fit on your team, but a great player to fill out your Bills-themed team. Josh Allen should be getting a little bit better speed here, especially for outside linebacker. But again, some of these 90s that you will be able to obtain will be a little bit more helpful. Cole Kmet not getting a great card. Raheem Mostert, 91 speed. The only thing that's tremendous on him, sadly hurt this year, so may not be getting another card, and he was a demon at the beginning of the game. Shaq Mason, solid 90 overall, should have better run blocking and lower pass blocking. They're just making all offensive linemen kind of average in the middle for their awareness this year, not really making them unique at all. Corey Davis here, 90 speed, decent deep route running. If he's a solid run blocker, playing for the Titans previously, may get him some decent stats there. Jonathan Allen, not a terrible defensive tackle, be able to get inside stuff for 2, sadly not 1. Leighton Vander Esch, tremendous speed, to be honest there. Decent height on him if you put Lurker, would be alright fit. Stephon Tuitt, very good run defender, but again a little bit slow on speed. Same thing with Jonathan Allen, sadly. Xavier Rhodes, solid stats, but the problem is his man and zone are not going to be able to get boosted to that 90 overall level. Derrick Carr here, solid card for the Raiders, as they need more, obviously, for their theme team, but just probably not going to get to those stats unless he does have that 90 awareness for Hot Route Master. Jeremy Chin, to be honest, one of the best cards released or going to be released tomorrow. 6'5", 91 speed, 91 zone, going to be able to snatch a lot of balls that shouldn't be caught by defenders, but he's going to have those attributes that allows him to do so. Larry Allen, looking at our first 92, tremendous run blocker. Sadly for the Cowboys, may not be able to fit on my team, but may be fast enough that I have to fit him in there somehow. Jesse Bates, the slightly better free safety that will be coming out. Not going to have quite the height, but does have a few more plus ones to some of those stats that you may want at speed and zone. And King Henry, the card that I'm most excited about so far, 91 speed, 92 truck, 92 break tackle. He's going to be able to get tank, so those hit stick tackles that may have forced you into bad situations, Henry is now going to have very few of those and going to be able to gain at least a couple yards and frustrate almost every defense every time you give him the ball. Last time I got in the playoffs, sadly fumbled the ball first time in like a few hundred carries, probably for him. It had to happen then. 10 years. Did do this bit the first time around recording this. This is the second time around. But obviously the only time we see Roman numerals are rarely in Mutt for the Super Bowl and Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. So maybe everyone isn't as up on those, but we are in our 10th year of Most Feared, as this card that you will receive when opening up after 9:30, presumably tomorrow, you will be able to better understand exactly what has happened previously. Sadly, they slow down here, where they could have went a little bit slower with a couple of those players. As we can see here in the missions tab, we will have the opportunity to be able to better understand what we can get. As you can see, there is release 1 here. 120 players will be coming to Mutt with this promo, and they're going to do a pretty good job of dividing them up. As we can see, there are a lot of tremendous players coming out tomorrow, and more to come in the future. There will not necessarily be scary fast, tall, or strong, but sadly, they will just be kind of split up in whatever they feel like doing. And sadly, because that's just something that you do become accustomed to, just getting a little bit of extra speed boost on some cards that maybe shouldn't get it for scary fast and things like that. So they are changing what we're used to, but that isn't always bad either. They do need to innovate year over year, and thankfully, or hopefully, this is one way that will be a positive way of doing that for us. In past years, they have had ways for players to morph, and it has been difficult for head-to-head, so this year the only morphs you'll get are just in solos. So you'll be able to get 10 plus 10 speed to certain players, almost feared players during certain times. You'll be able to get these cards through those solos: Scary Speed, Monstrous Might, and Towering Terror. So height, strength, and speed. You'll be able to add these to your cards to add plus 10 speed, some height, or catching and passing stats with a little bit of height and strength. So those are things that could potentially help you out, and sadly those will just be for solos. Hopefully there'll be something along the lines of house rule morph, but it did not sound like any any head-to-head would include this type of morphing. A little closer up on what those would potentially get you. 10 to power stats and height for might, and I did misspeak. For the height, that is the one that has the passing and catching stats boosted there. And when you do boost speed, you do lose height. So Derrick Henry will be 4 inches shorter, but will have 99 speed. Sadly, they did these to tall players. I wish they would have done it to like a Tariq Cohen or something like that and had him lose 4 inches on top of it. Playing through solos, you'll be able to get 2 different NCATs. One from getting 60 stars in the Ultraverse of Terror, and then you'll be able to get another from obtaining 120 stars with the second release, presumably 180 stars with the third release. Along the way, you'll be able to get 81s and 5,000 coins for the different levels. It seems like the intervals are 15 stars, which don't seem very difficult at all to obtain. Really, it's going to be like 4 rushes. As they get further down the list, it's going to be more difficult, but thankfully it's really not that tricky this time around. And in these different sequences, you will be able to obtain those different boost cards as well. And as you can see here, as you obtain those different levels, you'll be able to get a 90 overall NCAT as we discussed, or an 85 overall player. That does come from this, but will be auctionable, but sadly, the value of on the field is tremendously different there. And just a caveat on what I said earlier, you'll be able to play through the first string of solos and get a 90 overall. And then it does look like 3 separate 90 overalls, an 85 overall as well. And that is going to be just a tremendous amount of value that can come out of this, along with these objectives to earn 2 more overall most feared fantasy packs. So that is just tremendous, and if you haven't got all of your XP that you need, you can get 6 levels from just getting through these different objectives. There will be 20 of them, and you do have until the 4th, so they are going to be a little bit more intrusive to get all the way through, but still aren't going to be hopefully things that will be that bad if you are playing along through all of this. So as you can see, you will have to play challenges to obtain these different things. So if you're not a solo grinder, this is going to be a bit of a bummer, but completing sets, completing passes within a game, those ones really bother me when you have to do not a large, but a medium amount of things and win each game. So I guess that's not even a win requirement. So that one's not as bad, but it's like when you have to run for 100 yards, 90 yards, and then win 15 games, that can be a little bit tricky, especially if your offense isn't based on that. So they should do things a little bit different with that. And thankfully, they didn't seemingly do those in specifically head-to-head games. So hopefully they listened to a little bit of feedback with that, but they did have the solo battles, or here we go with the head-to-head things, and score 2,000 points in house rules. And none of these are single game requirements like I was referring to. They are going to just be score 50 touchdowns, get 700 tackles in a head-to-head. House rules have counted towards these things in the past, so that's going to be a plus. So if you just go in and play a bunch of these house rules, you'll be able to acquire a whole bunch of tackles and hopefully touchdowns. As you can see, 2,000 points scored in house rules. Kralo did note that you will be able to score a huge amount of points with particular house rules. And 21st. This one should be starting tomorrow and seemingly run through the week. Last one stopped on a Tuesday. This one seemingly will stop on a Thursday. So hopefully we'll just have 3 different house rules to play through. If I'm being honest, I appreciate playing house rules and playing shorter games where if you lose your focus for a couple of plays or don't make all the adjustments, you don't necessarily lose that game. I'm definitely playing a lot of people that are at my skill level at this point, and we all want to win games when we're playing those head-to-head season games. it can just be a lot, and if the game just decides to give you that mistake at that point in time, it can be frustrating. But in house rules, if, say, Linval Joseph catches a pick off of a tip or drops back into coverage and catches the ball, you can just laugh about it and it'd be okay and just give your opponent the win and not have to be so frustrated that that shouldn't be happening when all my cornerbacks are dropping picks and that defensive tackle just caught that in the middle of 5 people. Not talking from personal experience at all, or nothing frustrating there in my last few games. But yeah, thankfully the last one last night wasn't so bad. Out of options, play like you're running out of time. You can only call each play 3 times before you have to wait to use it again. Start racking up wins to earn your choice of end cat. To be honest, these are some of my favorites because most people just call the same plays over and over and over again, but I really love all of the playbooks that I try to run through this year. It has been Raiders, Chiefs, and Ravens. Of course, some of the ones that more people play, but as you see more people play against you and play well against you in certain formations, then you go and try it out yourself. And right now, I am stuck in Ravens and having a great time. So hopefully we're able to test that out and show you what we've been able to do with that. And yeah, at here, 15 wins, so they do understand these games take a little bit longer. It does seem like a full game, but if you do enjoy playing these, can be a benefit for you. This kind of goes against what I was saying about it being shorter and not being frustrating if you mess up a couple of things, but at least playing a different type of game mode can be something that's enjoyable. Hopefully they bring the shorter ones later on. And now we are going through the sets with release 1 and also the potential exchange sets as well. Just like previous sets, this will be the smaller pieces going into the larger ones. I'm excited to see what potentially will be for the exchange sets and what those potentially would allow if you can put in some of the old golds and clean out your binder that way. Thankfully, there has been a lot of good sets this year to allow for us to get rid of some of that, and thankfully some of our old complaints are being heard along the lines of what we can do with our binders, but there's always room for improvement there. Hopefully they have decent training with this and different ways to allow us to do that. Did not hear of a separate currency. May have been later on in stream, but that is something that I did not even hear referenced at the beginning, middle, or end. This is what I was discussing with potentially going into the yard and having to do this. This will cost you, cred to be able to acquire these, and I believe it's going to be 50,000. I've been playing all year. I was able to get the last one we had to do with sets Ultimate Kickoff. I was just at 50,000 then, and I think I'm just about there and probably will be able to get there in time to play this, but it's super frustrating. They're forcing us to go back and forth between different modes when a lot of the time we just want to play an an ultimate team and just want to just kind of play in that regard. So that is a little bit frustrating for me, and I assume other people who don't have that cred who won't be able to acquire this particular player. Looking deeper into these sets, we obviously will have exchange sets for the 90 overalls and the 90s to go into the 92s. I'm excited to see who they potentially have going out for limiteds this evening as well, but it is very exciting to see that we are going to be able to use some older players to put into these 81 overalls, but sadly as we go up a little bit further, we will have to just strictly use most feared players in these sets. So that is something that is understandable. We won't have any different currencies or anything else along those lines, but this is something that is very exciting to see, that we're going to be able to use some of those old cards, at least some of them, to go into these sets.